All right, let's be real for a second. When it comes to attraction, there are two types of touch. There's the sorry, didn't mean to bump into you kind of touch. And then there's the kind that stops a man in his tracks, short circuits his brain for a second, and makes him suddenly forget whatever he was talking about. That's the touch we're here to talk about today. Now, before you start thinking this is some Jedi mind trick to hypnotize a guy into falling in love, let me be clear, this isn't about manipulation. This is about understanding psychology, chemistry, and how the human brain is wired for connection. Because whether we like it or not, touch is one of the most powerful tools in attraction. It can deepen intimacy, trigger emotions, and leave a lasting impression that words alone just can't. But here's the problem. Most people underestimate it. They think attraction is all about how you look, what you say, or how good your Instagram captions are. Meanwhile, there's this whole secret weapon, the power of touch, just sitting there waiting to be used. And when you know where and how to touch a man in a way that feels natural, confident, and effortlessly seductive, he won't just feel a physical reaction, he'll feel an emotional one. And that's when the real magic happens. Now let's talk about the 5 places a man absolutely can't resist your touch. And no, I'm not talking about the obvious ones. We're going deeper than that, literally and figuratively. The back of a man's neck is one of the most underrated yet incredibly sensitive areas when it comes to touch. It's not the first place people think of when they talk about attraction, but if you've ever seen someone get chills from the lightest grays, you know exactly what I mean. This spot is packed with nerve endings, making incredibly responsive to even the softest touch, and that's where the magic happens. Think about this. When a man is feeling comfortable and relaxed, his body language changes. His shoulders might drop, his breathing slows, and he becomes more receptive to touch. Now imagine you're standing close to him, maybe whispering something in his ear, and as you do, your fingers gently brush the back of his neck. That tiny, effortless movement sends a surge of sensation through his entire body. It's unexpected, intimate, and deeply personal. The beauty of this type of touch is that it doesn't feel forced. It's not an over-the-top gesture or an obvious move. Instead, it's something that feels completely natural in the right moment. Maybe it happens when you're hugging him from behind, letting your hands trail up to the nape of his neck before pulling away. Maybe it's when you're playfully ruffling his hair and your fingers linger just a little too long. Or maybe it's in the middle of a conversation when you lean in close, letting your fingertips graze his skin in a way that makes his breath hitch just slightly. And let's be honest, this works because the back of the neck isn't just a physical hotspot, it's an emotional one too. Think about how protective people are of that area. It's a vulnerable spot, one that's usually covered or shielded, so when someone allows you to touch them there, even in the smallest way, it signals trust. It says, I feel safe with you, and for a man, that's incredibly powerful. Now let's talk about timing, because let's be real, touching the back of his neck while he's sweating at the gym or mid-bite during dinner probably isn't going to have the desired effect. Context is everything. This works best in moments when there's already a natural closeness. Maybe you're sitting next to each other on the couch, and as he turns to look at you, you let your fingers trace the nape of his neck for just a second before pulling away. It's subtle, but it creates this undeniable moment of electricity, and the best part, he won't be able to stop thinking about it. The human brain is wired to crave patterns, but it also obsesses over things that feel just slightly out of reach. That's why a fleeting touch on the back of his neck can drive him absolutely crazy. It's not just about the sensation itself, it's about the memory of it. It lingers. It makes him replay the moment in his head, wondering if it was intentional, if he meant for it to be that intimate. If you notice the way his whole body reacted, this kind of touch also creates a sense of anticipation. When something feels good, we want more of it, and when something is given in small, unexpected doses, it becomes even more addictive. That's why the right touch at the right time can make a man feel more connected to you, even if he doesn't fully understand why. Now let's get a little deeper into the psychology of why this works. Touch is one of the most fundamental ways humans communicate. Long before we had words, we had touch. It conveys reassurance, attraction, comfort, and even desire in ways that language never could. And certain types of touch, especially those that are gentle and intentional, trigger a release of oxytocin, the same hormone associated with bonding and trust. So when you touch the back of his neck, especially in a moment of closeness, you're not just creating physical pleasure, you're actually reinforcing a subconscious connection between the two of you. He may not even realize it, but his brain is literally associating your touch with feelings of warmth, safety, and intimacy. And those feelings, they're what makes someone feel hooked on you. But here's the thing, this only works if it feels natural. If you go into this thinking, okay, now I'm going to strategically touch the back of his neck to make him fall in love with me, it's going to feel forced. Attraction isn't about forcing moments, it's about creating them. And the most powerful moments are always the ones that feel effortless. So instead of overthinking it, focus on being present. Pay attention to the energy between you. If there's already a moment of closeness, let yourself lean into it. If he's comfortable, relaxed, and engaged in conversation with you, that's your cue. The beauty of touch is that it speaks louder than words, and when done right, it communicates something far deeper than any perfectly crafted text message ever could. And the best part, once a man experiences this kind of connection, he doesn't forget it. That one small touch, that one moment of intimacy can leave a lasting impression that lingers in the back of his mind. It makes him crave more. It makes him associate you with the kind of warmth and connection that's rare. And in a world where people are so often disconnected, where attraction is often reduced to swipes and DMs, that kind of real physical connection is priceless. So if you ever find yourself wondering how to create a moment that a man won't forget, start with something as simple as the back of his neck. It may not seem like much, but in the right moment, with the right touch, it can be everything. There's something undeniably intimate about a touch on a man's thigh. It's not as obvious as holding hands, not as expected as a hug, and yet when done right, it has the power to send a surge of electricity through his entire body. It's one of those places that is often overlooked, yet it carries a psychological and emotional weight that makes it incredibly powerful in the right moment. A man's thigh is a zone that naturally feels private. It's close enough to be personal, but not so intimate that it feels intrusive. That's exactly what makes it such a perfect place for touch. It walks the fine line between comfort and excitement. When a woman places her hand there, even casually, it immediately changes the energy between two people. It's not just about the physical sensation. It's about what that touch represents. It's warmth, it's connection, it's a subtle signal that says, I feel close to you. And when that happens, it's almost impossible for him not to react to it. Now here's where things get interesting. The beauty of touching a man's thigh is that it doesn't have to be obvious. In fact, the less deliberate it seems, the more powerful it becomes. Imagine sitting next to him, perhaps in a booth at a restaurant, or curled up on a couch, watching a movie. Maybe your hand just naturally rests there for a moment, while you laugh at something he says. Or perhaps you playfully squeeze his leg when he teases you. These little seemingly insignificant touches create a ripple effect in his mind. They make him hyper-aware of your presence, of the space between you, and suddenly what was just a casual moment turns into something charged. There's a reason why physical touch is one of the most powerful ways to create attraction. The brain responds to touch differently than it does to words. While a compliment or a sweet message can make someone feel good, touch has the ability to bypass logic and go straight to emotion. It triggers an instinctual response, something deeper than thought, something primal. And when a man experiences that kind of feeling, he won't just notice it in the moment, he'll remember it. This kind of touch also works because of the element of contrast. If your interactions are usually light-hearted, friendly, or playful, a sudden and unexpected touch on his thigh shifts the dynamic. It's not something he's anticipating, which makes it all the more intriguing. That contrast is what creates tension, the good kind of tension that makes someone's heart race just a little faster, and tension, when built the right way, is what fuels attraction. But here's where a lot of people get it wrong. The key to making this work isn't about being overly aggressive or making it feel staged. If it feels forced, it loses all of its magic. The best way to make a touch on his thigh effective is to let it happen naturally in a way that feels effortless. It's the casual brush of your fingers when you're shifting in your seat. It's the absent-minded tap when you're emphasizing a point. It's letting your hand linger just half a second longer than expected, creating just enough uncertainty to make him wonder if it was intentional. And that's where the psychology kicks in. When something feels effortless and unintentional, it's far more powerful than something that feels premeditated. A man isn't just going to notice the physical sensation, he's going to start analyzing the moment. Did she mean to do that? Was that just an accident, or was it something more? That uncertainty is what makes the moment stick in his mind long after it's passed. Another interesting thing about a touch on the thigh is that it creates an immediate sense of intimacy without requiring a huge gesture. Unlike a dramatic kiss or a bold move, this kind of touch operates in the background. It's subtle, almost secretive. If you're sitting in a group talking with friends and your hand finds his thigh for just a second, it becomes something only the two of you share that makes it feel special. And when something feels exclusive, when it feels like a quiet, unspoken moment just between the two of you, it naturally deepens the connection. But the timing has to be right. There's a big difference between a well-placed, natural touch and one that feels abrupt or out of sync with the moment. If he's in the middle of an intense conversation about his job or focusing on something serious, it might not land the way you want it to. But if you're already laughing, joking, or sharing a personal moment, that's when it works best. It amplifies what's already there, rather than trying to create something from nothing. There's also something to be said about confidence. A touch on the thigh works best when it comes from a place of ease. If it's done nervously or hesitantly, it can have the opposite effect. But when it's done in a way that feels effortless, as if it's second nature, it communicates something even deeper. It shows a level of comfort with your own sensuality, and that kind of confidence, it's irresistible. What's even more fascinating is that a simple touch like this doesn't just affect him in the moment, it has a lingering effect. It's the kind of thing he replays in his mind when he's alone, the kind of memory that stays with him even when he's not expecting it. It's what makes him think about you when he's driving home, when he's lying in bed, when he's sitting at work staring at his phone, tempted to text you. And that's because touch, especially in such a personal place, isn't just about physical connection. It's about emotional connection. When someone touches you in a way that makes you feel seen, wanted, and understood, it creates a bond that goes deeper than words. It makes him associate your presence with warmth, excitement, and anticipation. So the next time you're sitting next to the guy you're interested in, don't underestimate the power of a simple touch, because sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest impact. There's something incredibly intimate about touching the side of a man's face or his jawline. It's one of those touches that carries a deep emotional weight, one that has the power to melt even the most guarded of men. Unlike a casual brush of the arm or a quick squeeze of the hand, touching his face requires a level of closeness that immediately creates an emotional connection. It's personal, it's tender, and it speaks volumes without a single word being said. When a woman reaches up to touch a man's jawline, it instantly changes the mood. There's a reason why moments like this are so often used in movies and romantic scenes. It's because they feel real. A man might not consciously realize why this kind of touch affects him so much, but it's wired into him on a deeper psychological level. The face is one of the most vulnerable parts of the body. Unlike hands or arms, which are used to being touched in casual interactions, a man's face is rarely touched outside of intimate moments. That's exactly why it's so powerful. Think about it. When was the last time a man had someone gently trace their fingers along his jawline or cup his face with a soft touch? Probably not often. That's because for many men, physical affection is usually limited to quick hugs, backpacks, or playful nudges. But when a woman takes the time to touch his face, it's different. It's a signal of closeness, of trust, of deep attraction. It tells him, I see you, I want to be close to you. And that is something he won't forget. What makes this touch even more special is the way it builds anticipation. If you're standing close to him, locking eyes, and you let your fingers just barely graze his jawline, it sends a ripple effect through his entire body. It's a moment that slows down time, making him hyper-aware of every little sensation. He won't just feel it on his skin, he'll feel it in his chest, in his stomach, in the way his heartbeat picks up just slightly. It's the kind of touch that doesn't just stay in the moment, it lingers in his mind long after it's happened. There's also an element of reassurance in touching a man's face. It's not just about attraction, it's about emotional safety. A gentle caress along his jawline, especially in a quiet or vulnerable moment, can be incredibly soothing. It's a way of saying, I'm here with you, you're important to me. It's no wonder that this kind of touch is often reserved for the most intimate moments. Whether it's a soft touch before a kiss, a lingering moment after a deep conversation, or a reassuring gesture in an emotional situation. And here's the best part. Because this kind of touch is so rare for men, it creates a lasting impression. If you're the woman who reaches up to touch his face with genuine affection, he's going to remember it. He's going to associate that touch with the feeling of being desired, cared for, and connected. And that's the kind of thing that keeps you on his mind long after you've walked away. There's something undeniably magnetic about the small of a man's back. It's one of those spots that doesn't get a lot of attention, which is exactly why it holds so much power. A simple touch there, whether it's guiding him through a doorway, pulling him closer, or just resting your hand there for a moment, can send a shockwave through his system. It's subtle, it's unexpected, and it makes him feel something deep inside that he can't quite explain. Now let's be honest, most men aren't used to being touched in that area. Think about it. When people interact with a guy, they might shake his hand, pat his shoulder, or playfully nudge his arm, but the small of his back, that's personal, that's intimate, and that's why it catches him off guard in the best way possible. The reason this touch works so well is that it communicates something beyond words. It says, I'm comfortable with you, I trust you, and I want to be close to you. Even if he doesn't consciously process it, his body will. The small of the back is an area of the body associated with stability and strength, but it's also an area that isn't often touched unless there's an emotional or physical connection. And most of the time he won't even see it coming. Think about it. When was the last time someone just played with your fingers? Not grabbing your hand in a handshake or high five, but actually letting their fingertips trace over yours, intertwining slightly, or simply holding onto them in a slow, intentional way. It's rare, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. Men aren't used to this kind of touch. They're used to a firm grip, a pat on the back, or maybe a shoulder squeeze. But when a woman takes his fingers in hers and absent-mindedly plays with them, it completely shifts the energy. It pulls him out of his head and straight into the moment. It's subtle, almost teasing, but deeply intimate at the same time. Now here's where the psychology kicks in. The fingers have an insane number of nerve endings, which means they're highly sensitive to touch. Even the lightest, most delicate brush of your fingertips against his can send a tingle straight up his spine, and because it's such an unexpected place to be touched, his mind is going to hyper-focus on it. It's like a silent message that says, I'm comfortable with you. I like being close to you. I want to be in this moment with you. And trust me, that's not something he's going to forget. Another reason this works so well is because of how versatile it is. You don't have to be in a deep romantic moment for this kind of touch to land. You could be sitting next to each other talking about something completely random and casually trace your fingers along his. You could be playfully pulling his hand toward you while laughing at a joke, or even just fixing something on his hand like adjusting a ring or brushing something off. The smallest excuse to touch his fingers will create that spark. It also builds an insane amount of anticipation. If you're holding his hand and slowly running your fingertips over his, maybe even intertwining them for just a moment before letting go, you're leaving him wanting more. He's going to be thinking about that touch long after it's happened, wondering if it meant something, hoping for it to happen again. It plays with his senses in a way that creates an undeniable attraction, and let's not forget this kind of touch says something about you. A woman who takes the time to engage in these small, intimate gestures is someone who exudes confidence and warmth. It shows that you're not afraid to create closeness, to play with attraction in a way that's natural and effortless. And that kind of energy, that's addictive. So if you want to leave a lasting impression, if you want to create a moment that lingers in his mind, don't underestimate the power of touching his fingers. It's unexpected, it's personal, and most importantly, it's a kind of intimacy that will make him crave your touch again and again. Attraction isn't just about grand gestures or bold moves. It's often in the smallest, most unexpected touches. The way you brush against his hand, rest your fingers on the small of his back, or playfully trace along his skin. These moments create an intimacy that lingers in his mind long after you're gone. It's not about being obvious. It's about making him feel something he can't quite explain but doesn't want to let go of. When you understand how to connect with a man on this level, you're no longer just another person in his life. You become unforgettable. You become the one he thinks about when you're not around, the one he craves, the one whose touch feels different from anyone else's. And the best part, it's effortless. These aren't tricks or games, they're just small, natural ways to show warmth, confidence, and connection. So the next time you're with someone special, remember the power isn't always in the words you say, but in the way you make him feel physically, emotionally, and mentally. And if you love this insight and want more secrets on relationships, attraction, and how to build deep connections, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's one subtle touch that always works for you? Let's talk in the comments.